Most people think taking a bigger breath means giving their body more oxygen than it needs. That belief feels logical, but it is quietly destroying your energy, focus, and internal chemical balance daily. Here is the truth that changes everything. Your blood is already carrying more oxygen than your cells use. Your oxygen saturation sits between 96 and 99% almost always, regardless of how deeply you breathe right now. So if oxygen is not the problem, why do you feel exhausted, foggy, and desperate for a satisfying breath? The answer lies in a gas your body produces naturally, one most people try to eliminate as fast as possible. That gas is carbon dioxide, and without enough of it, your oxygen becomes completely useless to every single cell. Carbon dioxide is not waste, it is the biological signal that tells your blood to actually release its oxygen cargo. This mechanism is called the Bohr effect, discovered in 1904, and it quietly controls how alive your body truly feels. Think of your red blood cells as taxis carrying oxygen passengers to every destination inside your brain and muscles daily. Carbon dioxide is the fare that tells each taxi to open its doors and finally let the passengers step out. When you breathe too fast or too hard, you throw away that fare before the taxi ever reaches its stop. Your lungs fill with oxygen, but your tissues stay starved because the delivery system has been broken by your own breath. Stanford researchers named this condition relative hypoxia, where oxygen is present in abundance but completely unavailable for the body to use. This is why shallow, fast breathing leaves you feeling drained even after a full night of uninterrupted, restful sleep. The solution is not bigger breaths, it is softer, slower, lower breaths that allow your chemistry to finally work correctly. True breathing begins at the diaphragm, a dome-shaped muscle sitting just below your ribs, waiting to be properly used again. When your diaphragm drops downward, pressure equalizes, gas exchange improves, and oxygen finally reaches every tissue that has been quietly waiting. Elite athletes, military performers, and concert musicians all train nasal breathing specifically because it preserves the carbon dioxide their bodies desperately need. Nasal breathing filters incoming air, warms it naturally, and guides your entire nervous system toward a state of genuine physiological calm. It is not about pulling in more oxygen, it is about letting the oxygen you have be delivered with perfect precision. In the very first week of breathing this way, something remarkable begins happening deep inside your nasal passages without you realizing it. Your sinuses are not empty chambers, they are active biochemical laboratories producing a molecule your cardiovascular system cannot function efficiently without. That molecule is nitric oxide, a natural vasodilator that relaxes blood vessel walls and opens the gates for oxygen delivery throughout everything. When you inhale slowly and softly through your nose, nitric oxide travels directly into your lungs alongside every quiet breath you take. Once inside, it relaxes the tiny capillaries surrounding your alveoli, widening them and increasing oxygen absorption by 10 to 15% immediately. Research from the Karolinska Institute confirmed this effect, but only when the inhale is soft, quiet, and completely free of any force. Forceful nasal breathing still disrupts your CO2 balance and prevents oxygen from being released where your cells are actually asking for it. So the goal in week 1 is radical simplicity. Breathe less air, breathe more slowly, and allow your body's chemistry to reset. As your breathing rate slows down, carbon dioxide gently rises again in your bloodstream, restoring the Bohr effect your body has missed. Within about 7 days, blood vessels that had been chronically constricted begin to relax and dilate throughout your entire circulatory system quietly. Your hands grow warmer. The chronic afternoon mental fog you assumed was normal begins lifting without any caffeine or external stimulation needed. This clarity does not come from extra oxygen flooding your brain. It comes from oxygen finally reaching the brain tissues that needed it. Many people describe this early shift as feeling like a light turned on inside their head without any obvious explanation for why. Your shoulders drop, your breath grows quieter, your nervous system stops firing in the fragmented reactive patterns it has practiced for years. These are not small changes. These are early signs that your body's most fundamental operating system is beginning to recalibrate from the inside. As week 2 begins, the transformation moves deeper into structures most people never connect to their breathing patterns in any conscious way. The diaphragm, that dome-shaped sheet of muscle beneath your lungs, becomes the primary mover rather than your overworked neck and shoulder muscles. Modern sitting habits gradually freeze the diaphragm in place, forcing the body to recruit smaller accessory muscles not designed for constant daily breathing. When those smaller muscles compensate for years, tension quietly accumulates across your neck, upper shoulders, and the entire length of your spine. But the deeper problem lives even lower, where the diaphragm attaches directly to the lumbar vertebrae of your lower back's structural foundation. These anatomical attachments create a physical bridge between the rhythm of your breath and the stability of your spine with every inhale. When the diaphragm is weak and underused, this internal support system collapses, leaving your lower back vulnerable to instability you never trace back. Physical therapists call this the hidden breath-spine connection, and most patients live with its painful consequences for years without ever identifying the cause. During week 2, each deep diaphragmatic inhale pushes the diaphragm 2 to 3 centimeters downward toward your abdomen with every single breath. This downward movement builds intra-abdominal pressure, creating a natural internal brace that protects and stabilizes your lumbar spine from the inside out. Around day 10, people begin standing straighter without consciously correcting themselves because their breath is now doing the postural work their muscles avoided. This is not posture training or discipline. It is biomechanical realignment driven entirely by consistent diaphragmatic activation happening breath by breath each day. As the diaphragm descends rhythmically, it also delivers a gentle, repetitive massage to your liver, stomach, intestines, and every organ sitting below it. This rhythmic internal pressure stimulates digestive motility, reducing bloating, indigestion, and the sluggishness that accumulates from sitting still for most of the day. Some people even notice fewer episodes of heartburn as abdominal pressure becomes more balanced and consistently regulated by their new breathing mechanics entirely. Meanwhile, the shoulders stop being recruited for breathing entirely, and the neck muscles finally return to their actual anatomical roles without constant compensation. Blood flow increases throughout these long, overworked regions as mechanical strain decreases, relieving stiffness most people had simply accepted as an inevitable part of aging. By the end of week 2, your back feels lighter, your posture feels effortless, and your breath feels like it belongs to you again. Each inhale now actively strengthens your core from the inside. Each exhale releases years of accumulated muscular guarding stored silently in your tissues. Your breath is no longer a passive background event. It has become an architectural force, quietly rebuilding the structure of your physical body. Week 3 arrives, and the transformation shifts from the physical body into the deeper circuits of your mind and nervous system completely. Each extended exhale now sends a direct signal through your vagus nerve, telling your brain that the perceived danger has finally passed entirely. The vagus nerve is the long, wandering branch connecting your brain to your heart, lungs, gut, and nearly every vital organ below. When this nerve senses slow, rhythmic breathing, it releases acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter that quiets your internal alarm system with remarkable speed and precision. Acetylcholine reduces heart rate, softens blood pressure, and dims the amygdala's automatic fear response that has been running quietly in the background always. This shift moves your entire physiology from survival mode into what researchers call parasympathetic dominance, a state of genuine safety your body has craved. In this state, your mind becomes less reactive and more spacious, noticing details and possibilities it completely ignored when operating under constant stress.
Situations that once triggered irritation now dissolve before they reach the surface of your awareness, not because you suppressed them, but because you breathed. Researchers studying heart rate variability use it as a precise window into this emerging internal stability your nervous system is building, breath by breath. Higher heart rate variability is directly linked to longevity, emotional resilience, and the body's ability to recover from stress with remarkable efficiency and speed. Breathing at 5 to 6 breaths per minute significantly boosts heart rate variability within minutes, and by week 3, this becomes your new baseline. You may notice emotional swings feel less dramatic, recoveries from stress feel faster, and your baseline mood sits at a noticeably calmer level daily. These are not psychological tricks or positive thinking. They are biochemical consequences of improved vagal tone, reshaping how your nervous system processes the world. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex benefits from steadier blood flow as the hyperventilation patterns you once thought were normal finally and completely disappear from your life. This improved blood flow enhances focus, sharpens decision-making, and produces the subtle cognitive clarity many people describe as entering a genuine state of flow. Flow is when effort feels smooth, attention feels anchored, and even complex tasks feel less fragmented and more naturally organized inside your mind completely. Athletes and musicians spend years chasing this state through practice and training, not realizing it begins with something as quietly accessible as their breath. Your exhale lengthens naturally now, not as a practiced technique, but as an instinctive settling of a body that finally feels genuinely safe again. Sleep deepens during this week as well, with fewer nighttime awakenings and smoother transitions between sleep cycles that leave you actually restored each morning. These improvements arise because slow breathing synchronizes your circadian rhythms through vagal pathways, essentially recalibrating your body's internal clock with every quiet overnight breath. By the end of week 3, you begin sensing a new space between stimulus and response, a pause that did not exist before now. That space is your nervous system regaining sovereignty over its own reactions, guided entirely by the quiet, consistent rhythm of your intentional breath. Week 4 begins, and your breath starts reaching places your awareness has rarely traveled to consciously in your entire life before this moment. Here is a surprising truth that most people have never heard, despite how profoundly it relates to their daily health and body composition. Fat burning depends heavily on oxygen availability, and Harvard metabolic studies reveal that 84% of fat actually leaves your body as carbon dioxide. That means the majority of every pound you have ever lost exited your body not through sweat or waste, but through your breath.
Deep diaphragmatic breathing increases oxygen delivery to your mitochondria, allowing them to break down fatty acids efficiently instead of defaulting to glucose for energy. But this fat-burning metabolic state only activates consistently when your body enters the parasympathetic rest and digest mode that slow breathing reliably creates each day. Stress breathing keeps your system locked in sympathetic mode, forcing it to burn glucose for quick energy and completely ignoring your fat stores entirely. This is why people feel stuck despite dieting, exercising, and doing everything right. Their breathing pattern keeps their metabolism trapped in emergency survival mode. By week 4, slower breathing signals genuine safety to your body, finally giving it permission to access and burn the fat it has hoarded. Deep breathing also activates the lymphatic system, an overlooked network of vessels that drains cellular waste from every tissue in your body daily. Unlike blood vessels, lymph vessels have no dedicated pump and rely entirely on muscle movement and pressure changes to keep fluid moving correctly. Each diaphragmatic breath acts like a biological vacuum, pulling stagnant lymph fluid upward through the thoracic duct and out through your circulation completely.
This movement helps clear cellular waste products, reduce water retention, and ease the chronic puffiness many adults carry in their face, joints, and abdomen. Some people describe their face looking visibly less swollen. Others feel lighter around their hips and joints without changing their diet or exercise routine. These are not cosmetic effects or coincidences. They reflect real physiological drainage happening inside your tissues with every breath you take throughout the day. Your skin may even appear brighter as inflammatory byproducts leave the lymphatic system more efficiently, and your circulation improves consistently across every passing week. After 30 days of this practice, your lungs function with a quiet efficiency they have not possessed since you were a young child. The diaphragm now travels farther with each inhale, expanding your lungs in a way that chest breathing could never have accomplished on its own. This increased movement recruits more alveoli, unlocking tiny air sacs that had been sitting collapsed and underutilized for potentially decades of your breathing life. As more alveoli participate in each breath, oxygen distribution becomes smoother, more consistent, and more efficient throughout every region of your lungs simultaneously. This is why people notice easier breathing during stairs, walks, and physical activity after 30 days, not because their lungs grew, but because they opened. Respiratory researchers call this ventilatory conditioning, the gradual strengthening of respiratory muscles through simple repetition of correct breathing patterns practiced consistently every single day. Nitric oxide production also becomes more stable as slow nasal breathing widens the microscopic routes where oxygen enters your blood and CO2 exits smoothly. Your lungs regain their natural elasticity as the diaphragm resumes its full downward rhythm instead of staying frozen upward in the shallow stress position. Elastic lungs open easily, close smoothly, and keep airflow even across your entire respiratory tree with a grace that feels almost effortless and automatic. Many people describe a subtle spaciousness in their chest at this point, as though something that had been clenched for years has finally fully released. Deep breathing also calms airway reactivity by enhancing vagal tone, reducing the unnecessary bronchial constriction that tightens your chest during anxiety or mental overload. By day 30, breathing does not feel like a technique you are practicing. It feels like the natural pace your body was always designed for.
You have essentially returned your lungs to their original biological design, and every organ in your body responds to that return with remarkable gratitude. Your sleep is deeper, your stress response is softer, and your energy stabilizes in a way that feels sustainable and genuinely yours to keep. You are not breathing more, you are finally breathing correctly, and the difference between those two things is the entire transformation you have just experienced.